I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm Tom Soika. I'm the service director here at the store. And Colleen Ward is with us. Colleen works in service administration with us and helps us in many different facets in service and parts. So to help keep me on track, everybody's got a handout that I just put together, and we'll kind of try to stay on point with that. But the first thing we want to do is certainly thank everyone for the purchase of a new or used vehicle. And what you're going to learn about tonight is the service and parts, and if you're in the car business, you call that the fixed operations. And back when I was a kid, I grew up south of Charlottesville and Afton, and my dad worked here in town. And just like today, I just loved cars when I was growing up. And I think about some of the car dealerships that I went to when I was a kid, and I'm talking about probably in the early 70s when we come around and look at cars here in town. And things have changed a lot in the retail market in all different types of retailers, from the mass merchandisers that have come out and replaced some of the smaller retail stores. And it's the same thing with car dealerships. Car dealerships, there were many more of them back in the 70s and 60s here in Charlottesville than there are today. And the ownership of these stores has changed a lot also. And that's one of the big advantages that we have here at Colonial is the ownership of the dealership. But talking about going to these stores back in the 70s, what we find is that they were all very small, all family owned. Most of the employees were either family or employees that had worked there so long that they were just like family. And they would sell typically just one make of car. And so like down on West Main Street, across from the Omni, there was a little place. I think the last use of this was like a clay and pottery crafters type place, and but that used to be Russell Mooney Oldsmobile. So if that's kind of hard to believe, but you could have a building, the whole thing like the size of this part of the showroom, sold Oldsmobile service parts. Everything was right there. Just down West Main a little bit further, you go to McGregor Lincoln Mercury, and they sold, of course, Lincoln Mercury, but that was it, and some used cars. Go down a little further, there was Massey Fisher Ford, obviously just a Ford dealership. A little bit further down was Peyton Pontiac Cadillac, and then later, in the I guess in the mid-70s, it became Peyton Pontiac Cadillac Datsun. And then there was really the only import store I remember was Haim Dominic was the Chevrolet dealership up on Pantops, and he was a Mercedes dealer. And then over here we're kind of this side of the Aberdeen barn, right on Route 29, there was an import dealership, and they sold Triumph, MG, Volvo, and Fiat. And so they're all kind of lumped there together. But when you go into any of these stores, if you purchased a vehicle and you spend any time there, you very quickly found out where the service department was, where the parts department was, because if we were in one of those stores back then, the back wall of the showroom was typically the check-in area for service, and then probably off to my right was a parts counter, and then you had one person answering the phone, and they did that for all departments. And so just in your short time of purchasing a car, you quickly learn like where I'd come for service, where I'd buy parts. You knew everybody in the office, and so if you had any questions after you purchased the car, it was really simple. And if you stuck with that make of car, you became like one of their family. And so what's changed now is that just the economy of scale, these folks couldn't stay in business just selling just Oldsmobile. The other thing that happened is that the amount of capital required to be in the car business, just like any retailer, has steadily gone up. And so as these folks were thinking about retiring, there weren't a lot of just individual families eager to buy an Oldsmobile dealership. And so there were companies like we have a lot of today, like the Penske Group, and you've heard of like AutoNation, who will go in and they'll say, hey, I understand you own the Mercedes dealership here in town. No one in your family is willing to take over the store. I understand it's for sale. Well, we can buy it, but we're a big corporation out of pick a state, And the thing that we lost a little bit with that is that the personal attention that you got is gone. The other thing is that they built bigger stores, and they grouped all these things together. And so then what you found is that you might learn about where service and you might learn about where sales is in the administrative office, but then service and parts is usually separate from that. And so you had a kind of a disconnect between the two. And so here at Colonial, we're fortunate that we're one of only 2 stores remaining here in Charlottesville that are family owned. The Price family owns Jim Price Chevrolet, and the Myers family owns Colonial Auto Center. I mentioned Peyton Pontiac Cadillac Datsun back in the 70s. Mr. Myers purchased that store in '84, and then it changed to Colonial Buick Cadillac Datsun, and then Pontiac Cadillac Datsun. And then Mr. Myers purchased this land, and we're lucky that back then you could buy an 11-acre tract of land on Route 29. That's kind of incredible, isn't it? And when I was growing up, one of the things you think about is like, well, wow, what was here before? Did they tear down this like beautiful dairy farm or something like that? They built this big store. Does anybody remember what used to be here? Anybody local here in Charlottesville? Right where the Colonial sign is right now, that was when I was growing up, that was a used mobile home sales lot. And I just remember some of them like laying this side way and some of them the other way, and so we were thinking, man, we're so fortunate somebody's bought all that stuff and is willing to like haul all that stuff away. And so huge improvement to the property here, and we're so lucky that back when he first purchased it, no way were we going to use all the space, but now here in 2014 we're using all of it and a little bit more that I mentioned. So large enough facility. I think the only disadvantage we have though in this big of a facility is that you've got a separate service and parts building. And so you might get to know Simona or Bob Kemp or whoever your salesperson is, and they're going to do an excellent job. But then to come up and meet us in service and parts, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, especially if you had bought the car at 8 o'clock at night during the week when we're closed. So that's why we started giving the new owner seminars here about 8 years ago. And what we want to do is just introduce you to service. And the first thing I'll do with that is just looking at the front page here, this handout. First thing you notice, the phone number up top, 951-1050, 951-1000 is the sales and administrative office phone number. And we have a separate number for service, 951-1050. And that's certainly to customers' benefit because we don't have one general number and then you have to go through a reception, so you have to go through a lot of prompts to finally end up with who you want to talk to. Dial 951-1050. It rings to all of us back there in service, myself, Colleen, and 4 other folks. Answer the phone all day long. There are no prompts. You don't have to remember whether you're on the green team or you're on Steve's team or anything like that. We answer the phone and try to assist you. If the service manager is busy, say for Buick Cadillac, then we can do pretty much anything we need to assist you. And very rarely do we have customers leaving voicemail messages, which, you know, if I'm busy, then I'm thinking if I leave a voicemail message, is the person there? Are they on vacation? Are they going to get it next week? Are they going to call me back in 10 minutes? And so very rare that we're not able to assist somebody when you immediately call in. Looking at how the store is broken down, up top on the left is Jimmy Mitchell. Jimmy Mitchell is the GMC service manager. And over the years, besides the brands that we sell and are immediately responsible for servicing, we've taken on servicing just about anything, any type of vehicle that a customer can bring into the store. And so a good example is Jimmy Mitchell. Jimmy is our GMC truck service manager, but he also services all Chevrolet. And a good thing with General Motors, they say if the technicians are certified in other makes of vehicle, GM models, you can submit warranty work and do all repair work. And so we're certainly certified in all Chevrolet, GMC. If you have a Saturn, if you have a Hummer, all that's going to come to Jimmy Mitchell. We have some commercial customers that have medium-duty trucks, like AmeriGas Propane and the UVA Hospital, and Jimmy Mitchell does all our medium-duty truck work. Moving over the Nissan service team, Doug Holmberg is our service manager for that team, and the Nissan team is going to take care of all the Asian imports besides Nissan that we'd sell or used or customers will own, say Toyota, Honda, Subaru. All those makes are going to go through Doug Holmberg. The next service team is the Ford Lincoln service team. Colonial is a Lincoln dealership. Lincoln, of course, is a division of Ford, and Ford says, well, if your technicians are certified in all Ford products, including diesel, you can submit warranty work and do all repair work on those vehicles. And so we're certainly certified and master certified in all Ford vehicles, including power stroke diesel. So we're very, very busy on that team, doing a tremendous amount of Ford work and taking care of all of our Lincoln customers. Moving down, Todd Wheeler. Todd Wheeler's our Buick Cadillac service manager, and also we're a Mitsubishi dealership, and so we have 2 technicians on that Buick Cadillac team that are also master Mitsubishi technicians, and so that's the only exception for Asian imports. Mitsubishi would go with Todd Wheeler. So in addition to Buick Cadillac, Todd also services all of our European vehicles, and we've got 3 folks on that team that are very, very skilled in Mercedes, BMW, and Volvo work. So that's been a big asset to us because Mercedes and BMW have been cars that we've sold frequently here used, and we don't have to refer folks anywhere else to come for service work. If you own one of those vehicles and it's still under factory warranty, I'd say you still always bring it to us and let us diagnose the vehicle. If we need to send it out to the dealer for a warranty repair or a recall, then we'll take care of that. I'll take it over to the local dealer, and odds are, just because I've been here for so long, I can get it in and out much quicker. If you need something to drive, we can provide that. If you need shuttle service, we'll do all that here. So we don't want anybody that's purchased a used vehicle of a different make to have to go somewhere else for service. So we certainly want you to come here. Before the seminar started, one of the customers here asked me if we could work on sprinters. Anybody not familiar with a sprinter? A sprinter is a Mercedes cargo van that has a diesel engine in it. Some of them are converted into motorhomes. Super nice, but pretty complicated vehicle to work on. And so we're very, very skilled in sprinter work. So there's almost nothing that we can't do. If we could take a walking tour behind the service department, you'd be very surprised, I think, to see the type of vehicles that we're working on. Everything from commercial vehicles, a lot of municipal vehicles. I'll talk about some of the emergency vehicles we're working on. If you have a trailer, like a horse trailer, cargo trailer, landscaping trailer, there's a landscaping company here in town that's a national company, huge. They have a whole fleet of these cargo trailers, and we work all the time repairing these trailers. So there's, like, if you need brakes, wiring repairs, anything like that, we can do all that. And our parts department is very, very good at sourcing all the parts for those types of vehicles and the trailers. Looking down here at the bottom, the next one over is Tom Powell. Tom Powell is our Quick Lane service manager. Quick Lane has been a really good addition to the service department. We added Quick Lane, I think, in '93, and Quick Lane is a division of Ford. And Ford was the first manufacturer to come out with a just kind of a turnkey quick service facility that would be in addition to your regular service department. And the ideal, I think the ideal and target customer for Quick Lane is somebody that is in a hurry, needs an oil change, state inspection, tire rotation, front brakes, something like that. And heaven forbid, if I'm booked up here in the service department, we don't ever have to say, you know, well, maybe you should try these guys down the road. We can say, hey, I tell you what, let me check Quick Lane right next door. Let me see if Tom Powell can help you. Tom Powell, they don't do any warranty repairs. And so the advantage to that is that they're not going to get bogged down in rebuilding an engine in a car that could take 3 days. And then when you have somebody come in that needs something quick, maybe you can't provide that kind of service. Quick Lane does not do any huge repairs like that. And so those guys stay freed up, and they're able to attend to folks very quick and on the spot, don't take any appointments. Tom Powell's a super nice guy. Tom used to own the Exxon service station up on the corner of Hydraulic and 29 for a long, long time. And some of his folks that worked with him back 20 years ago still work with us now in Quick Lane. And if anybody remembers back, I guess it was 20 years ago now, that Tom Powell started the toy lift. And I think he just borrowed a bucket truck from the power company, and he got up in that just to draw attention to himself on the corner of Hydraulic and 29. And now that's turned into a huge organization that they have over at Fashion Square Mall every year. So he's a very connected fellow. The next thing over is the Central Virginia Auto Auction, and on my next version of this, one thing I'll add on here is it's Central Virginia Auto Auction and also the Car Care Department, which is what we've named our reconditioning shop. Lorraine Albright, Lorraine is the manager of that department. So during the week, the reconditioning department is going to take care of all the new cars that are being sold or being prepped for the lot. If anyone's purchased a protection package for the vehicle, then Lorraine's folks are going to apply that. Anyone who calls in and wants a wash and wax or a full detail on their vehicle, then Lorraine's folks will do that, and they do an excellent job. And Wayne Eldridge, our manager over in Car Care, has worked with us for about 17 years. Very good group of folks, and that's a big facility also, so we can pull in big commercial trucks and take care of any type of vehicle that you have. The next manager over is Tim Breeden. Tim's our parts manager. I started working here at Colonial in 90. Tim Breeden started here in 91, and both Tim and I have had several different jobs here at the store and learned lots of different things. And Tim certainly has, starting off in parts. He was our parts truck driver back in 91. Tim's a UVA graduate and worked his way up to being the parts manager now for about the last 14 years. Very, very well-run parts department. And what you notice with the parts department here is that, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but tires, when I talked about the old dealerships down on West Main Street, if you had bought tires, say from McGregor Lincoln Mercury, and if you told somebody at work, oh, I just bought a set of tires from Donnie McGregor, you know, if they didn't like you a whole lot, they laugh at you because they think nobody buys tires at a car dealership. You know, you go to the tire store. You go to the folks over at like Settle Tire on Preston Avenue. That's where you bought tires, because typically a car dealership, to buy tires, we had to pay close to or at retail, and then you'd have to sell them either for no profit or you'd have to sell them above retail. So it was just kind of a dire necessity if somebody bought tires. Now that's changed completely. Tim stocks a huge supply of tires, and we're able to buy tires at a dead wholesale price, just like Sears or just like Merchants, any of those folks. And the advantage that we have is that, say you have a Nissan Murano or a 2013 Pathfinder, we know exactly what tire came on that car. We already know what your tire size is. So if you have a concern about tires or want to get a price on them, we've got them here for the vehicles that we've sold and also for just about everything else out there on the market. One good thing that's helped us a lot, because we buy so many tires, we have two different companies that deliver every single day, and one of them delivers twice a day with a big box truck. So there's nothing that we can't get. The days of having to wait overnight for tires to come in or something like that's gone. So certainly keep that in mind for the vehicle you purchased or any other vehicle you own. The parts staff over here in the bottom right, of course, we've got the traditional parts counter. If you just want to walk up and buy a bottle of touch-up paint or any type of accessory for your vehicle, like running boards or something like that, you can install it, or the service department can install it for you. The next part of the parts department are the folks that support the technicians. So we have 20 technicians in the main service department. We have 4 technicians over in Quick Lane, so we've got a big staff of folks rolling every day. And so we've got a whole division of that parts department helping them with everything from engine repairs to oil changes. But then one thing that we've added in recent years is a very, very busy wholesale division. And so what that consists of is primarily selling sheet metal to body shops. So heaven forbid, if you have to have a collision repair done to your vehicle, if the insurance company or the customer's requesting OEM parts, factory parts for Ford, General Motors, Nissan, Mitsubishi, that's all going to come from Colonial. So we've got 6 trucks on the road every single day delivering sheet metal to body shops all the way to Lexington, Harrisonburg, Culpeper, towards Richmond, actually going down to Farmville every single day. So that's pretty neat in itself, but the advantage for me and our regular customers is that the parts delivery for, say, a water pump used to come once a week. They'd have what they call a weekly stock order. So every Wednesday you'd have to get all your orders in, and then a couple days later everything would show up. And so if you came in on Thursday and needed a water pump, they'd say, well, you know, stock order just went out, you know, next week we can order it and then it'll be in. Oh, rats. Or we could overnight it with FedEx. And, you know, how much is it going to cost to FedEx a water pump, you know? So that's anybody's guess. So that's no way to do business. And so the manufacturers realize that, so now we have daily stock orders every single day. Nissan, Ford, and General Motors has a truck that comes here before we open. They have access to a section of our parts warehouse, and they're dropping everything off every single morning before we open. And we can get orders in until 4 o'clock. So that's very beneficial. So that worst case scenario, usually it's next day. But the reason I mention these wholesale folks out on the road, basically if you're a parts person working for us and you need a Ford part, you're going to do basically just a Google search, but through the Ford network, and Colleen or myself comes up and says, you know, we've got this customer needs an alternator, and you know, daily stock order, that's great, but that's not going to work for these folks because we don't have one in stock. They're getting ready to take their son or their daughter to college, or they're going on vacation. They've got to have this thing. We need it today. Let's see who has one. So what they'll do is they'll search and they'll say, you know what, you know, unbelievable, but the Ford dealer in Dillon is showing the alternator that we need. Great. Well, I mentioned our wholesale guy driving to Farmville every single day, so call him up. He's going to pick it up on his way back, and now I've got the part. So we've got 6 trucks out on the road every single day, and anything like that we need within any reasonable reach of that radius that I just mentioned, they're able to bring stuff back to us every single day. So say if I miss both tire trucks coming in during the day, we've got a fellow that goes to Harrisonburg every single day. That's where one of the warehouses is, and we can pick tires up and bring them back. So it's like never say never on parts, and that's one of the keys to keeping vehicles moving quickly. What would aggravate us and certainly customers is cars waiting for a pretty simple repair, but the parts weren't available, or they couldn't get them within a 2 or 3 day window. So a huge advantage in that. The next thing just flipping over, I mentioned we had 20 technicians working in service and 4 folks over in Quick Lane. Charlottesville is not a big town, and anybody that's in any type of business, whether it's a healthcare business, or you're in heating and air conditioning, or electrical, or plumbing, or you're in the car repair business, if you need somebody that's really qualified in that specific field, you can put an ad in the Daily Progress, or nowadays you can put it on Craigslist and say, master licensed electrician needed immediately at, you know, Tom Soika's electrical company. You know, please call or respond to email or phone number below. How many calls are you going to get here in Charlottesville? Might not get any. The few that you get may be folks that maybe they're calling you because they're not able to work anywhere else here in Charlottesville. There's always a chance that you're going to catch somebody who's thinking, boy, I'd love to live in Charlottesville, and we live somewhere else right now. And you know, you could luck out, and we've done that by hiring a few folks. But just lucking out, hiring technicians or any kind of employee is not the way to staff a place like this. And so, when I was in high school, I went to Western Albemarle High School, and I grew up right on the Nelson County, Albemarle County line. And Nelson County High School, Western Albemarle, and Charlottesville Albemarle Technical Education Center, Greene County, all have auto tech programs, and I took auto tech in high school. But the one thing that I kind of missed in that is that we never got to go to like a service facility like this. And so when I became the service director at the store, the previous habit of just trying to hire folks just kind of haphazardly wasn't going to work. So I'm the chairman of the Auto Tech Committee for K-Tech, and then also for Nelson County Public Schools. And then we also participate with the Greene County folks at the Tech Center. And so what we do is we have job shadowing, is what they call, during the Christmas break. So we have auto tech students that are interested in coming to work here. They're going to come spend a day with us, and so we'll rotate. Like this Christmas, we rotated 7 technicians through the shop. Then during the summer, then we do interviews, and I interview all the folks that are rising seniors and interested in the internship working here, from participating with all 3 of these auto tech programs. We're only going to hire 1, maybe 2 of those folks each summer, and so we're drawing from a big pool of folks, and so we can hire just the very best out of that group. And then after they graduate from high school, everybody's different. I've had some folks, Colleen is a graduate of the Greene County Technical Center, and Colleen took cosmetology and auto technology, and has been an excellent employee here with us. And she came to work with us right out of high school. Actually, she started working before she graduated from high school. But then I've had some folks after the high school program will go on to a 2-year auto tech program. There's several excellent ones nearby. J. Sargent Reynolds Community College in Goochland has a really good auto tech program. And then there's some private schools in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Tennessee. And then after they've graduated, then we've hired those folks and had them come to work. So if I was to go through all our folks here in the front, I can name about half of them that we've hired in the last 10 years to start off as high school students. So the retention of employees is about 100%. That's very, very important for us and our customers, because the learning curve on what we're doing now on all these vehicles is pretty high, and it takes a long time. And so you spend so much time and effort in training, specifically on the Ford and GM and Nissan vehicles, that it takes about, to become a master technician, the typical amount of time employed is 10 years, because we can't hire somebody and just have them do nothing but training for 4 years straight. And also, the great thing about training, like through those programs, is that you're going to go to a hands-on class, and you're going to learn about some component in the vehicle, and then you're going to come back here and work for a couple months, and then you're going to go to another class, and so you're able to apply everything that you've learned, and so you completely master each one of those tasks. And so the retention of employees has really helped us in customer satisfaction, and then also, like I mentioned, in being able to work on just about anything that comes in. So in addition to being a master Ford technician, they're just excellent mechanics in their own right, that we can kind of work on anything. I forget that, like, some of my favorite TV programs are in the 80s, and so I'll mention things, and like Colleen and these folks, they won't know what I'm talking about, but you remember that show, MacGyver? And I guess if you watched it now, it'd be pretty silly, but back when it was on, I thought that was a good show. And so I really think a lot of the repairs that we do is kind of like on that show. There's nothing we can't get figured out, and we got some really resourceful folks that will be presented with some pretty strange problems, and they'll say, "Don't worry, Tom, we're going to get it figured out," and we do, and that's a lot of fun for them and for me, and I know the customers are happy with it. The next thing, flipping over, is this page. This is actually a handout I made for the auto tech students at Nelson County High School. But one of the things that we really need to mention, and I think it'd be bad if we didn't, is just the importance of changing the oil in your vehicle. And now, I'm betting that everybody here is interested in taking good care of their vehicles, and I'm sure that you have on your previous ones. And so really, I'm promising you, it's not going to apply to you, but I've got folks that will go 10, 15, 30,000 miles in between oil changes, and say at like 25,000 miles, they're out of oil. And then they come in, and then we have serious problems. And that's a daily occurrence with the number of vehicles coming in. And so many of those problems can be avoided just by oil changes. And the things that I want to just mention real quickly, the oil's going to do 5 different things in a car engine or a truck engine. The first thing it's going to do is it cools the engine. You've got antifreeze coolant cooling the engine. But the primary thing that's cooling the engine is just the oil circulating inside of it. You get low on oil, the oil will start to get really hot, the engine will get hot. You ever pull a dipstick out of a car and it's kind of like burned looking on the end? Y'all won't see that, but I have. And the reason for that is that engine's gotten low on oil, and the oil's gotten so hot, it's turned into like asphalt. Lubricate, everybody knows that lubrication is so important, and that's the primary purpose of the oil. The problem we run into is that I got this little diagram or this little picture of this engine. Is that, okay, the main thing running through here is a crankshaft. That's ultimately what's connected to the wheels and makes the vehicle go. And that's kind of lowering the engine, and so that's going to get lubricated first. The main problem we run into is that if the sump down here gets low on oil, or the oil quality is really bad because it's been in the engine way too long, the top part of the engine really suffers in poor lubrication. And up top, the bearings and the passages that the oil have to go through is super small, almost smaller than like a screen on a window. And so if you have any kind of particulates, any kind of crud in the oil, those tiny little passages get clogged up. And then we run into all kinds of problems. The primary problem we run into is that the engine timing is affected by poor lubrication up to the top of the engine, and that'll set off a check engine light. And so most folks don't associate a check engine light coming on with bad oil quality, but that's really common. If you walked up there with us now, I've got 2 major repairs going on, all because the folks consistently ran it pretty low on oil and with poor oil quality. We've got a Cadillac DTS, a beautiful car. That's the large 4-door sedan with the V8 Northstar engine. And so if we walked up there right now, the car is up on the lift, and the entire engine transmission is on the floor. And we've got the engine completely disassembled, and we're repairing the top half of the engine because all these little bearings have been worn out because of poor lubrication. The rest of the car is fine, so obviously you need to repair it. But that's unfortunate for the customer, and that's, we can certainly do that kind of repair work, but what we'd rather be doing and what we make money doing is just doing routine maintenance. So something to just think about. The third thing down here, we talk about how oil cleans it. Part of the combustion process in the engine produces little bits of carbon because you're burning the fuel, and you've got, just like soot in your chimney, you get some soot inside the engine, and eventually a little bit of that soot gets down in here to the oil. And so that's why you pull your dipstick out after the oil's been in the car for about 2,000 miles, and it goes from this nice kind of gold color to black. It's from soot. And some of it isn't going to hurt it, but some of that soot is really gritty. And so that's why you've got, I don't think it's here in my picture, yeah it is, you've got an oil filter. That oil filter, what that's doing, it's got a media in it that's kind of like a pleated paper, and that's trying to trap some of those little particles of soot. But say you got 8 quarts of oil, and you got a filter that holds a cup of oil. This little filter isn't going to be able to ultimately filter out all that burned up carbon floating around in the oil. It's can only do but so much. And eventually, once the filter gets plugged up, the oil just bypasses it and just keeps circulating. Last 2 things, talking about sealing. The oil seals the pistons in the engine so that the combustion process is clean and complete. If you're low on oil, you'll start to have a little bit of combustion leak into the crankcase, and ultimately you kind of wear out the pistons a little bit, and that's what causes cars to start burning oil. And when I first came to work here, I worked in sales for 10 years, and I'd appraise cars all day, and I'd jump in cars, and it was rare that I'd get in a car that would have like more than 150, 160,000 miles. At that kind of mileage or beyond that, most folks that were buying cars at a dealership, that car was long gone. I'd say the average trade-in car would have like 70, 80,000 miles on it. And now, 20 years later, here in service, I help park cars every morning. I'll jump in cars 200, 230, 300,000 miles, and the car still looks great. The cars are much more expensive. The economy's changed certainly since 2008. And so some folks that might have traded cars every 2-3 years, they're not doing that anymore. And so they're keeping cars longer. And so all because of just simple maintenance and the primary thing of changing oil and not having the engine burning oil, you can keep an engine running for a long, long time. Luck's got a little bit to do with it. You could have a park brake in here and that could be the end of you. But if not, you can go a long time. I had a Buick Park Avenue come in about 3 months ago, and these folks, but the car had 480,000 miles on it. And retired couple, Dr. Guest, you might have seen them in. Very nice folks are in there all the time, and I don't know, what they do. I mean, I have no idea, but I do know that they live in Lake Monticello in Palmyra, and they drive to Florida very, very frequently, like monthly. And so it's a 2002 with 480,000 miles on it. And you might read in magazines how people say, oh, I use this purple super synthetic oil and I drive 1 million miles, and if you don't use this oil, no chance. That's not true at all. If your car doesn't require synthetic oil, you do not need to use it. These people get their oil changed when they're out of town at Sears, Merchants, Pet Boy, that can pour oil in the car. That's where they're going. The key, though, is that they go every 3,000 miles without fail, and they check the oil very frequently. So the engine in this poor car has always had the oil changed, and they have literally just run the wheels off of it. But original engine, original transmission. So we've been doing repairs like the seats worn out because from going back and forth and things like that. But very, very high mileage. But very common now to have a car with over 200,000 miles coming in and out of here. Our commercial customers, ambulances, we do all the ambulance work for the area. Those vehicles, a typical ambulance is about $220,000. So like Scottsville Volunteer Rescue Squad, they're not trading trucks like they used to. And so they're running an ambulance to very high mileage, but you can do that safely if it's properly maintained. So let me flip over and keep us rolling. The one thing that I mentioned in changing oil, and that there's some other things that we're gonna do in addition to changing oil, and to keep us on track in doing that, we've got a multi-point checklist that we follow every single time, and I'll get Colleen to go over some of this here in a minute. But the multi-point checklist, Ford was the first one that came out with this, then General Motors, and now all manufacturers have a checklist. The one here in the packet is a GM one, but they all are just about identical. And so the good thing about these is that if I'm a customer and I say, boy, I really love coming in here, Don, and I'm so glad that you can get my oil changed, I'm in a big hurry. But even though I'm in a big hurry, I'm coming to Colonial Auto Center. I'm not going to a gas station in Afton to get my oil changed. I'm at Colonial. And so in addition to changing the oil, I'm expecting everything's been checked on my car. And before we had these checklists, I'd like to think that we did that every single time that we did. And so if I'm a customer, I get my oil changed, and then 2 days later, I'm at the parking lot of the store, and some friend of mine comes up and says, hey, Tom, your brake light's out. I saw you pull up. Huh? Oh, man, I was just at Colonial, just had my oil changed. It sure would have been nice for them to put that taillight bulb in. And what else did they not look at? Oh, my gosh. So with this checklist, we're going to go through the basic things. We're going to do a light check every single time you come in. A brand new car can have a problem, just bad luck, a bulb's bad. If a bulb is bad on a new car, the bulbs are covered under warranty, so you don't need to buy all these. Come here, we'll put them in for you. The other thing that we're going to go down, I'm not going to cover the whole thing, but windshield wiper blades, we're going to take a look at that. Brake pad thickness, tire tread depth. We're going to look for any types of oil or coolant leaks. We're going to top off all the underhood fluids. And then we're going to go through all the things that you would typically cover in a Virginia State Safety Inspection. So power steering, all that can be looked at while the car's up on the lift. And the good thing about this is we're going to note all this, and then we're going to give you a copy of it. and just very quickly at checkout, we're just going to mention what we saw in the car. Usually it's, hey, thanks for coming in, Don, everything looks good, brake pad thickness is 8/32. You know, the minimum you can have is 2, so you're in good shape, nothing to worry about, everything looks good. But then eventually things are going to not become new anymore. They're going to get some wear on them, and we're going to say, hey, you know, you came in, brakes now are at 4/32 in the front, and they're getting kind of close in the back, but you're okay to the next oil change. You need to mention that to the customers, because some of them are great customers, like these folks that drive to Florida every week, and we know, hey, they're due for brakes pretty soon, but they're going to be back here in 2 weeks or so for something else. We'll just mention it to them then. But what may happen, though, is that your good regular customer who always comes in every single oil change, what you didn't know is that they're getting ready to give that car to their son, and he's going to Florida for college, and the car's not coming back till the spring. And so brakes are close, but they're okay for now. You need to mention that to the customer, because I've made the mistake of not mentioning it to the customer before we had these. And then my good customer goes, and the son did take the car to college, and they called me up about 2 months later and said, Tom, you know, Jeff's down in college in Florida, and the brakes are metal on metal. Huh? I thought you were looking out for us. We bring our car to Colonial to you because we want everything checked. And I hated to say, well, you know, we knew that they were low, but we were in a hurry, and we just figured we'd tell you next oil change, because you could go to next oil change. I didn't know you were giving the car to your son. Well, you know, it's their car. It's not mine. So by telling them this, then you can make intelligent decisions about how you're going to maintain the vehicle. So you know that, hey, I'm at 3/32 on my brakes. That's fine, because it's going to last me until next oil change, and I haven't put in then. Or, hey, we're getting ready to go on a vacation. We're driving out to South Dakota, and I don't want to wait. Let's do it now. So same thing on tires. Some folks might say, hey, you know, I do a lot of driving. All my driving's at night. I might get caught in the rain. I can't have minimum tread depth on my tires. So, hey, they're at 4/32, minimum is 2. Let's do it. What kind of price do you have on tires? So customers are able to make good, intelligent decisions about maintaining their vehicle. And also, you know, you hate to think about it now, but tires, even though we can sell them at a very, very competitive price, they're not cheap. So you can very easily spend $200-300 on tires on a larger SUV. And that's something, if you kind of know ahead of time and can plan for it, then getting that type of repair bill isn't going to be a shock to you. So flipping over, we'll kind of get out of order a little bit. Go to the very back page, in the back of it. This is an ad that we've run a lot. It's on our website. We've run it in the Daily Progress. And in addition to doing this multi-point check, there's some other things that we offer folks that I know are a big benefit, and I'll ask Colleen to go over these for us. So our first thing is our complimentary breakfast.
Yeah, so when you come in first thing in the morning, whether you're coming in to stay and wait while we work on your vehicle, or you're dropping that vehicle off and taking the shuttle to work, we do offer complimentary breakfast. It's not a waffle maker or anything like that. We can't do that for you, but we do have one of our good shuttle drivers is nice enough to help us out, go to Sam's Club pretty frequently. And we get a lot of the prepackaged stuff, you know, all the healthy ones, you know, the honey buns, the muffins, you know, we've got some granola, some fruit snacks and stuff like that. But it is prepackaged, and mainly because a lot of our customers do take that shuttle off to work in the mornings, and it's a really good way of just being able to get a granola bar, stick it in your pocket, put it in your purse, get on that shuttle, go to work. In the mornings we also have juices, orange juice, apple juice, sometimes grape juice. Water, Coke, and Diet Coke are always complimentary throughout the day, as well as coffee, both caffeinated and decaf, and tea. So we've got all those available. The breakfast is there until about 11:30. We usually try to pick it up a little bit before noon. But yeah, so it's a really good way of, you know, if you want to stay, by all means, you do have a little something to snack on. You don't have to be just in for service. If you come in and you're just picking up a part, help yourself as well. The other thing, just hitting on here, he already went over the multi-point. Next over is your 10-minute top-off. That's just a service that we offer here. You do not need an appointment. And if you are going on a trip and you're in between oil changes, you know, you're not quite due for one, but, you know, I mean, I'd like to get it looked at beforehand. The 10-minute top-off allows you to come in, just pull up into the lane, ask any of the service riders, myself, Tom, any of us in the office to be able to come out to do a 10-minute top-off for you. We're going to check your tire pressures, check your oil, all your other fluids, top off anything that needs to be topped off, and just do a good visual check of everything. With the temperatures being as low as they have been here recently, we've seen a lot of customers call and even come in because that little tire light comes on. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed by now all your vehicles now have the tire pressure monitoring system in it, which is a really good system. Again, here being in Charlottesville, you know, they're always moving, always changing, always got some kind of construction going on, right? And we've seen a lot of times road construction, you get a little nail in that tire, and many times there it goes, your tire pressure light will come on, and you're like, well, they don't look flat, and you know, come in for that 10-minute top off, we'll check your tire pressures. If we see that one is like 10, 15 psi lower than the rest, we're going to take a quicker look, you know, a better look there, feel around it. 9 out of 10 times, if that's the case, you got a screw, you got a nail, you got something. And we've got a really good system there in the shop, can easily patch that up for you. We've never had a vehicle come back after patching the tire that tire's leaked.
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, and that's something just real quick in itself. That's kind of a science in repairing tires and doing it correctly. And we've got our guys are trained how to do it. So if a tire can be repaired, we can do it. Yes, sir.
Do you do nitrogen fill?
We do, but that's a good question. So we have nitrogen is something that Nissan recommends it in a couple of their vehicles, specifically the higher performance vehicles require nitrogen in tires. And so we've got a machine that can inflate tires with nitrogen. It's about 98% pure. Just real quick, the reason that you put nitrogen in a tire instead of the regular air that you're breathing, what you're breathing now is about, Don, you probably know better than I do, what, like 70% of what you're breathing is nitrogen already, or 60%. But pure nitrogen is much better inside of tires because nitrogen molecules are about 8 times as large as oxygen. And so the general leaking out of air, the rubber is permeable to a certain extent, and air will leak out through the rubber. Also, the moisture and other things that are in the air can eventually cause the tires to kind of dry rot on the inside a little bit. Pure nitrogen inside of a tire, the molecules are larger, and so the inflation pressure is probably going to stay constant forever or much longer than regular. It's when you're buying a set of tires, it's $39 to inflate all of them with nitrogen, and so it's something that some folks prefer, and other folks, you know, that's not something they're interested in. But we have a machine. It's about a $5,000 machine that looks like a washing machine on wheels, and that thing's able to generate nitrogen and inflate the tires. So, and we can do that also in a 10-minute top off.
Right.
I've used the nitrogen, and I'll tell you right now, it improves your gas mileage too.
Because your tires are always inflated perfectly. Yes, sir.
What about 5 miles? The night when I started over here, I looked at my left rear tire and it looked low. I said, well, I got this monitor on my steering wheel. I'll check out and see what it is. Well, it was 35. The other ones were 37 and 38. Now, was 5 miles, I mean, is that something to be concerned of, being as the one tire is 5 pounds lighter than the other?
Yeah, and that's a good point. So some of the tire monitoring systems are pretty sensitive. So like on a Nissan, like on a Versa Ultima, 4 PSI can make the light come on. So if one's 4 to 5 PSI, it'll make the light come
The
on.
light didn't come on, but I could tell by just looking at it that the top tire was low.
Right.
You know, they do have low profile tires. It just looked low, but just looking at it.
And some of the GM and Ford vehicles will have a larger variance. They can be up to 8 to 10 PSI low before the light will come on. So it's something to keep in mind. But the system is really simple, and it's pretty foolproof. And so if that light comes on, you can go through and check it. But to answer your question, my opinion, if it's like 4 or 5 psi low and they're all about the same, I'd still take a look at it. It could be just a little bit of variance in whoever's inflating the tire. I tell you, the other thing that'll happen is like in the spring, and it's kind of cool in the morning, and you'll have your car sitting like at an angle to the sun coming up, and like the right front tire is in the sun all day, and the other ones are in the shade. That'll make that tire inflate a little bit more than the others, and so that can cause them to be off a
Well,
little
I
bit.
just backed it out of the garage, so, you know, it was on a level.
Right.
So it was like 47.
So I'd check, like Colleen was saying, we find a lot of stuff in tires, and that's the thing, that 10-minute top off, we started doing that about 7 years ago, and one of the things out there is we've got a tire, air hose to inflate tires, and it's got an inflator on it, and it's digital, and so we used to have to pull cars into the shop to inflate tires. Now we can check it right out there, but very frequently, like Colleen was saying, there's something in the tire. And what you'd worry about is you'd see people like at 7-Eleven putting money into the little compressor thing and trying to inflate a tire, and you wonder, how low was that thing? You know, is somebody inflating a tire that was like half flat? It didn't just get half flat by accident. So that's what you kind of worry about, is you're out on the interstate with people that half an hour ago, they were inflating this tire because it was about half flat because there's a bolt in it or something. And those are the people that have blowouts and things like that on the road. So really good system though for repairing tires here. Yes, sir.
You mentioned a routine oil change at 3,000 miles. The manual in the Altima I just got says 5,000.
Right, and so that's a good point. So we could spend a little bit more time on that, and that oil change intervals to some extent depend on the oil capacity of the engine, and also the type of engine it is. So say for like a Nissan Versa, Sentra, oil change intervals based on how you drive will either be 3 or 5,000 miles. If you're doing a combination of city, highway driving, some stop and go, then a lot of that driving is going to fall under what they call severe duty, and so that's going to go down to 3,000 miles. If you're like the folks driving to Florida weekly, you know, they could probably go to 5,000 mile oil change intervals, but they're changing at 3. A larger capacity engines like a GMC Yukon is going to hold 6 quarts of oil. Some of the other GM vehicles hold 8, so they've got a lot of oil in them. Naturally, through the combustion process in the engine, a little bit of oil is going to get burned. So over time, the oil level is going to go down just a little bit. So if you've got a car that holds 4 quarts of oil or 3.5, if you're a quart low, you're pretty low. And that can happen in about 4,000 miles or so. You got a car that's holding 8, you're a quart low, not that big a deal. So those folks can go about 7,500 miles between oil changes. So it just kind of depends on the type of engine, how you're driving, and then all your manuals, you're going to have a little section that's going to say shorten up your oil change interval based on severe duty. A great example is like some of the commercial work we'll do, and municipal, UVA police, they're driving, their average speed is right at about 20 miles an hour because it's all stop and go all the time. So we'll change oil on those folks at about 2,500 miles. But the car's been running a long time to get to 2,500 miles. You can imagine just stopping and starting all day long around UVA. So it all depends on how you're driving. But that's a great question.
How dependable is that OnStar diagnostic? Because it gives you percentage.
Right, and that's a good point. So GM vehicles have a oil life percentage index that comes up. So when we change your oil, we reset it to 100% oil life, and then as you're driving, your oil life percentage is gradually going to go down. And so that oil life percentage, that's just a mathematical equation that's programmed into the vehicle, and it doesn't actually look at the oil. It's not checking the oil, but what it's doing, it's checking all the things that make oil go bad. So what makes oil go bad quicker is it's measuring how many times you start and stop the engine, how fast you drove. It measures the ambient temperature, outside temperature. If you're out in Arizona, super hot, it's going to make your oil life go down quicker. If you have a lot of idle time, trucks or cars just sitting idling all day, that's going to make it go down as well. So I have some folks with an oil life index, and they're doing construction work or something, trucks sitting a lot, idling. They'll go like 2,000 miles and they'll go down to like 10% oil life. Kaboom. If you're doing, if you're just driving on the interstate quite a bit, you can go, according to that oil life index, you can go 8,000 or 9,000 miles before it says it's time to change the oil. So what I tell you, that's Dr. Guest has a really good point. You know, what about that thing? Well, it's just a guide. It's not actually measuring the oil, so a little bit of common sense has to come into play as well. Your whole life you've been changing oil no farther than 5,000 miles, and now this thing's telling you you can go 8 or 9. Nah. You know, so you have to use some common sense. What we say is at 50% or lower, it's time to change your oil. So now you're on the downhill slide at 50% or below. At 50%, you're at about 5,000 miles typically anyway. So take a look at that. It's a good thing to monitor, and especially for folks that have a lot of idle time or doing construction work, or they're farming or something like that, where they're not getting up to very high speed. The last two things, Colleen just hit on our, these are our two most popular coupons down here at the bottom.
Yeah, actually the coupon that you were just given at the beginning of the seminar is actually this one right here. It's called our Works Package, $39.95, just like it says. It does include obviously an oil and filter change. It is good up to 5 quarts of oil, so if you do have a vehicle that takes 6 or more, the only little extra charge you get is going to be just for that extra little quart. It's not going to change, you know, we'll still use the coupon on it and everything. It's just going to be that extra quart there. It's also going to include that multi-point inspection. That is, obviously, like we said, it is a courtesy inspection that we do on every time you come in. Also for the $40 is going to be a 4-tire rotation. I do have some people call in and say, oh no, you can't rotate my tires, they're directional. You can still rotate them front and back. You can't cross them or anything, but you can still rotate them front and back. Obviously your front tires will still wear more because they are turning more than your rear. So it is important. We do actually recommend every time you come in for an oil change to get those tires rotated, simply because tires aren't made like they used to. And rotating them every time you come in does really, really, really extend the life of those tires. So having it all done for the $39.95 is a really good price in my mind. My family does it all right at that price. They get that same thing. That's our most common one. Just next to that, we do have the same package available for diesels for the $99.95, which is a really, really good deal for that as well. A lot of the times, what that usually...
It's about $140 service.
Exactly, about $140 service. We've got it down to just under $100. So again, same thing applies there with the oil filter change, tire rotation, and multi-point. And it usually takes about 45 minutes to get the vehicle checked in, pulled into the shop. So that is easily something you can wait for. We do have a lot of people that still drop the vehicle off, go next door to IHOP, get some breakfast, and come back. That's perfectly fine too, but it is a fairly quick service. So
Let me ask 2 questions.
Go ahead.
Let me ask 2 at one time, and then you can answer both.
okay,
This 10-minute top-off,
yes,
the word complimentary is under the picture.
right. You don't need an appointment. It does not cost anything.
Don't cost anything. That's what I was asking.
Yes, it is a free service.
And even if your tires don't require, what did you say,
The nitrogen?
You can put nitrogen in them?
That's correct, right?
During the 10-minute top-off, if you've got nitrogen in them already, I'm going to top them off with nitrogen, but I can't convert them to nitrogen in the...
Right.
in the-
But if my tires have regular air in them, and I wanted nitrogen in them, you could do that for a price, for a fee?
we can.
Yes.
For
Yes.
for $39.
Okay.
So, that's available, and that 10-minute top-off, it is free, and that's a good deal for all of us. It's a good way for us to meet new folks, and for y'all who you bought a Nissan, but then maybe you want to bring your Dodge or your Ford in here for service, we can meet you through that 10-minute top-off lane, and we do it. It's all day long, and it's really not even 10 minutes. It's like 5 or 6 minutes.
And it's the same drive-up spot.
Right. You just pull up the same drive-up spot. and we'll get you in and out very quick. And all our folks
You
jump
can
in there.
even stay in the vehicle. You don't even have to come in. You can stay in the vehicle while we do it for you.
So just keep that in mind, especially if you're like Colleen had a great point. You're about 1,500 miles away from an oil change, but you are going to go take a long trip and you just want somebody to check the car over. We can do that very quickly and get you on your way. The last thing, and I appreciate everybody sticking with me, is on the back of this this last page is a sample survey, and the change in the economy in 2008 changed everything. It certainly changed the car business and all retailers. And one of the things they found out is that the number of folks buying cars hasn't really increased, but the number of good cars out there has increased. And so despite you can advertise yourself into the poorhouse, but you're not going to gain that many more customers. The best way for a car company and a car dealership to be profitable and have good customers is keep the ones you already got. And so the manufacturers quickly realized that, and they said, hey, we got some good dealers out there, and we got some that are scary. And the only way we're really going to find out is we're going to survey folks when they're getting warranty work done, an oil change done, and certainly when they buy the car. And if we see trends of like, hey, this dealership, every survey coming back says that the amenities in the service department are terrible. Holy smokes, what's going on there? So what they want to do is make sure that they don't have a dealer that's making this car manufacturer lose customers to a competitor. And the thing I think about, think about like 10 years ago when your friend bought a Kia, or maybe you bought a Kia, and you thought, I got what I paid for. I didn't get a whole lot, but I didn't pay a whole lot. But now you can buy a Kia Optima, or you can buy a Hyundai Genesis. Now I've got folks that are looking at a Cadillac here, and they say, Mike, what else is on your shopping list besides the Cadillac CTS? Well, I've got to look at the Hyundai Genesis. Huh? A Hyundai? Yeah, that's right. You can buy a Hyundai that, according to car magazines and customers, is very, very comparable to a Cadillac. So holy smokes, you've got a lot of good cars out there, and so you got to do a good job taking good care of your customers. So if you just come in for an oil change now, you're very likely to get a survey like this from any of the manufacturers. The only thing I'd ask you to do is just complete it. Most of them are online now, and so you can just buzz right through that thing very quickly. Mitsubishi, I think, is the only one that still calls you. General Motors will mail them to you. Nissan has completely stopped all mailing of surveys. They're all online. And also the way that you're going to be notified first of any type of recall on your vehicle is through email. And so when you bought the car or when you come in for service, everybody's badgering you to death about what's your email address. But if you're going to get information like that, it's through email. And the manufacturers are kind of mean to us if we don't have everybody's email address in there. So keep that in mind. Those surveys, they're just a fact of life now. If you buy a lawnmower, you're going to get surveyed, because they think, hey, we want to make sure that these dealers are taking good care of the customers, and if there are problems, they're very quick to solve them, and so are we. Then the last thing I leave you with is that the car manufacturers, all these cars have warranties on them. But back when I first started selling cars, when the warranty was over, that's it. It was over. But now, some of y'all have experienced it. You might have read about it. There's things called customer goodwill. Goodwill is assistance from the manufacturer after the warranty is over, or covering some type of repair that even though your car's on a warranty, normally wouldn't be a warrantable item, but they may cover it. And the only way you're going to get that type of assistance is coming to us, or it's coming to a dealership. And if you have some type of service history with the dealership. And the reason I mention that is that, for instance, you've got a vehicle that you bought here new, it's got a 60,000 mile powertrain warranty on it, never had a problem, and then at 65,000 miles, something goes wrong. Well, typically people used to say, well, I'm out of warranty, I'm on my own, maybe I'm going to fix it myself, or I'm going to take it to Sears or something like that. Before you do that, what I'd recommend is coming in and letting us take a look at it. There may be some type of bulletin or recall you didn't find out about that could cover that repair. we get paid, we're happy. You get the car fixed for free, you're happy. Or you could come in and say, you know what, Tom, man, I've owned 4 GM pickups. Now, I've been a great customer, and here I am, 5,000 miles out of warranty, and I need a transmission. Huh? I need some help. And back in the old days, I just go upstairs and talk to Mr. Myers, and I say, Mr. Myers, you know, can we do something to help this customer? Well, we might be able to help him, but we couldn't give him a transmission. But now what we can do is I can submit it to General Motors or to Ford or to Nissan and say, here's my case, this is a good customer. Customer's already probably called customer assistance and complained that they've been a great customer. Now they're facing pick a number, like $5,000 for a transmission in a truck. What can we do to help them? The odds are is that they're not going to cover the whole thing, but they're going to cover some type of percentage of it if you're just out of warranty. But the only chance you're going to have of some type of goodwill is being a frequent customer of the dealership. You don't have to come every time, but they're going to ask us, did they maintain the vehicle? And the best proof of that is me emailing them your service records. I say, you know what, these are great customers, bought many General Motors or many Nissan products from us. Here's all their repair history. What can we do? They're going to do something. Now, if you're 40,000 miles out of warranty, no, they're not going to do it. But it's kind of comes down to common sense. If you bought the car, never come back, you're 20,000 miles out of warranty, it's probably not going to be covered. But if you're just a little bit out of warranty, or you got something kind of strange that you don't know whether it should or shouldn't be, General Motors will go so far as say, because of just your body build, there's something wrong with the seat, or you've rubbed a hole in something, or you've cracked something on the armrest or something like that because you're a real big guy and you've cracked this thing, or breaking your armrest, that's typically not under warranty. But something like that, I can probably get it covered. So before you think, man, I got to buy a whole new door panel, because this thing's cracked or something, or I spend so much time in my car, I've worn out something, the center armrest or something like that, you need to check. I could probably get something like that covered for you. So it's just something to keep in mind. It all comes back to these surveys and how the economy's changed since '08. They don't want to lose you, because when your warranty is run up on your car, that's also the time when people are they're thinking about buying a new car. And in that one time, I'm thinking, if I'm a customer and I think, you know what, the one time I asked them for help, they gave it to me, and man, that was great. And so I'm definitely looking at another GM product. Or, the way it used to be, the one time I needed some help from Lincoln, they told me, take a hike. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to buy something else. So they've gotten a lot smarter. Yes, sir.
A luxury dealer here in town lost me over $16.
I believe it.
And I promised myself I'd never go back there.
So that's the time when somebody needs some help. It's in everybody's interest, mine and the manufacturers, to do whatever it takes. So I thank everybody for coming. I'll stay afterwards. I'll be happy to answer any questions. When you go on our website, you can go to me and click on my email address. You can email me. Colleen's got her card on all these handouts because she can help you schedule service appointments when you're coming in. My cell phone number, if you call me, my voicemail has my cell phone number in it. I'm happy for everybody to call me, because my thinking is that I'd rather, if you've got some kind of concern, it's better for me to just take care of it on the spot instead of you leave me a message or something like that. So everybody's welcome to contact me. I've worked here a long time, and there's probably, if I can't figure it out, I probably know somebody who can. So, all right?
Let me, real quick, let me just do the door prices here super quick. We've got some cooler bags here if anyone's looking to do anything for Super Bowl this weekend. All right, it's good for hot or cold items. Alrighty, so we got 3 different colors here.